Oscar Piastri just did something that no one expected in Barcelona. He took a car that broke down on day one, and came back with one of the fastest laps of the entire test. No soft tires, no tow, no hype. Just raw pace, from a car that wasn't even running at full power. And the scary part? McLaren says they're not changing anything for Bahrain. Which means the MCL40 you just saw is the exact car they plan to win with. Stay with me, because the truth behind Piastri's pace isn't just surprising. It's a warning to every single team on the grid. It was Thursday morning, day 2 of Barcelona testing, and McLaren was already in trouble. Oscar Piastri had barely started his run when something started flickering on the telemetry. It wasn't just a glitch. It was a fuel system anomaly. And within a few laps, the MCL40 was shut down. Just 48 laps. That was all McLaren could manage. A number that, in testing terms, might as well be 0. Because in a season where teams only get 3 days, every lap matters. Every minute counts. And McLaren had just lost hours. The garage? Silent. No PR updates. No drama. Just tension. The car was rolled into the back of the garage. And then something strange happened. They didn't try to patch it. They didn't rush a fix. Instead, they tore it down. Completely. Wiring. Plumbing. Cooling. Everything came off. Because McLaren wasn't just chasing reliability. They were chasing something deeper. Clarity. Now here's the twist. What looked like a disaster was the exact moment this test became dangerous for everyone else. Because while Ferrari and Mercedes were racking up laps, McLaren was solving the one problem that could have haunted them all year. They took the hit. They absorbed the loss. And overnight, they built a weapon. By Friday morning, the MCL40 was back. And Piastri was ready to attack. What happened next was not just a recovery. It was a warning shot. Because with just one clean session, Oscar Piastri went from sidelined rookie to fastest of the future. And he didn't even need soft tires to do it. Friday morning, the air was cool. The track was still evolving. Most teams were running long stints, high fuel, tire degradation tests. But McLaren? They had something else in mind. They had something to prove. Oscar Piastri stepped into the MCL40, and within just a few laps, delivered a lap time that flipped the entire test narrative upside down. 1 minute, 17.446, on a medium compound. No soft tires, no DRS tricks, no tow, and yet, 4th fastest overall. Let's put that in context. That lap put him ahead of both Ferraris, ahead of Russell, just behind Max Verstappen. And that's with a car that had missed nearly an entire day of testing. A car that had been rebuilt overnight. Piastri wasn't supposed to be pushing. He was supposed to be collecting baseline data, system checks, energy maps. But the MCL40 didn't need hand-holding. It came alive. Trackside engineers noticed something right away. The car looked balanced, clean on entry, stable under braking. No rear snaps, no mid-corner corrections. It wasn't just fast. It was predictable. And that's the one word every F1 driver wants to use after stepping into a new generation hybrid car. Because in 2026, with more electric torque, more deployment sensitivity, and new fuel regulations, predictable means fast. But here's the scariest part. That lap wasn't even a performance run. Piastri still had fuel on board. The team wasn't using aggressive engine modes. No special cooling. No low drag wing. It was a functional lap. A clean one. And it nearly matched some of the most optimized laps of the week. This wasn't hype. It wasn't a glory run. It was a quiet warning. Oscar Piastri, on day 2 of testing, in a car that barely made it through Thursday, just told the world, "We're ready." And McLaren? They weren't done yet. Because just a few hours later, Lando Norris stepped into the same car. And what he did next? Took the fear Piastri created and doubled it. Friday afternoon, final stint of the day, McLaren made one subtle change. They prepped the car for a low-fuel run. Not a full qualifying simulation, but something close enough to see what the MCL40 could really do when it was finally unchained. Soft tires, a clean track, and Lando Norris behind the wheel. He went out. One flying lap. No second attempt. And what he delivered was the second fastest time of the entire test. 1 minute, 16.594. That lap was just 2/10 off Lewis Hamilton. It beat both Ferraris. It beat Red Bull's best time of the week. It beat Aston Martin. It beat every single team. not running on absolute minimum fuel. And here's what makes it terrifying. McLaren says, this is the same car they're taking to Bahrain. No upgrades, no new wings, no hidden floor. What we saw in Barcelona was the race car, and that tells us one thing. McLaren didn't just recover from a broken Thursday. They recovered, restructured, and delivered a car capable of leading sessions. Just 24 hours later. You cannot fake that. You cannot luck into that. That only happens when the car is fundamentally right. Now, let's go even deeper. That lap wasn't just fast. It was consistent with the behavior Piastri had reported earlier. Balanced, responsive, no instability through turns 7 and 8. A spot where Mercedes was fighting rear-end slides. No overheating on the straights, where Ferrari had to limit runs. McLaren didn't just look fast. They looked ready. And behind the scenes, Mercedes engineers were watching. So was Ferrari. Even Red Bull. Because when a customer team, with a shared power unit, starts beating factory programs on outright pace, that's when people start whispering. That's when teams start panicking. Because here's what really happened in Barcelona. McLaren didn't show potential. They showed performance. Now, not later in the season. Not once upgrades come. They've arrived. And the only question left is this. Was that their ceiling? Or was that just the beginning? No last-minute floor change. No rear wing experiment. No secret chassis locked away in Woking. McLaren has already confirmed it. The car that ran in Barcelona is the exact same car going to round 1. And at first, that might sound crazy. Everyone else is playing the classic game. Push the factory, squeeze in one more development. Arrive in Bahrain with something new and unseen. But McLaren? They're playing a different game. They're betting on one thing. Clarity. Because in modern Formula 1, upgrades aren't always the answer. Sometimes, they're the problem. Every new part means new unknowns. New simulations. New balance shifts. New risk. And when you only get 3 days of testing, you don't have time for guesswork. You need to know exactly what the car is doing. Lap by lap. Turn by turn. Down to the 10th of a second. That's what McLaren found in Barcelona. And that's why they're not touching it. Here's the real secret. McLaren isn't trying to win the upgrade race. They're trying to win the operational war. With no new parts to babysit, they're spending every minute optimizing tire windows, refining setup ranges, perfecting battery deployment. While other teams waste laps collecting baseline data for brand new components, McLaren is dialing in what they already trust. And that creates something more powerful than raw speed. It creates predictability. Piastri said it himself. The grip comes when I expect it. That single sentence means more than 100 laps of testing. It means the MCL40 is not just fast. It's drivable. It's consistent. It doesn't surprise him. It doesn't fight him. It works with the driver, not against him. And that, in this new era of high-voltage, high-stress racing, is worth gold. So now, heading into Bahrain, McLaren isn't hoping. They're executing. No chaos. No confusion. Just 2 drivers, 1 car, and the clearest run-up they've had in years. And the scariest part? We still haven't seen them push this car to the absolute limit. Not even close. Most drivers in their second season? They're still finding their feet. Still learning the systems. Still asking questions. But Oscar Piastri? He walked into Barcelona like a man who already knew the answers. No hesitation. No drama. No oversteer moments that needed rescuing. He was measured. Deliberate. Precise. And when things went wrong on Thursday, he didn't flinch. Let's rewind. That fuel system failure could have rattled anyone. New car. New season. Barely any laps. But Piastri didn't panic. Didn't call for resets. Didn't jump on the radio frustrated. He just stepped out, reset mentally, and came back on Friday with a lap. That put him within range of race winners. That's not luck. That's composure. But it goes deeper than personality. Because Piastri's driving style might be the perfect weapon for this generation of cars. He's smooth on turn-in. Minimal steering correction mid-corner. He doesn't overwork the tires. And in the new 2026 hybrids, where energy management is king, that's massive. Every time he lifts, harvests, deploys, he's not just reacting. He's planning. That's the kind of brain that thrives in the current era. And in a car as well-balanced as the MCL40, that brain could be lethal. Here's what the engineers are seeing behind the scenes. Piastri's data isn't just fast. It's repeatable. Sector times that match lap after lap. Braking points that stay within a meter of each other. No surprise spikes in energy usage. In testing, that's the gold standard. And when you pair that with a car that behaves predictably, you start to see something dangerous form. A feedback loop between man and machine, getting tighter, sharper, faster. And there's one more detail you need to know. Every single lap Piastri drove in Barcelona, he did without pushing engine modes to full power. He never dipped into quali-style setups. He never ran the softest compound. He was still holding back. Which means the fourth fastest lap of the week, the one that nearly matched Ferrari, was just a preview. Oscar Piastri hasn't revealed everything yet, but what he has shown is already enough to put the entire grid on notice. McLaren has been chasing this moment for over a decade. Since the fall from grace. Since the years of unreliability. Since watching rivals dominate while they reset, rebuild, and wait. But now, something has shifted. This time, they're not chasing anymore. They're closing in. And at the center of it all, not a world champion, not a veteran, but a quiet, sharp, relentlessly fast second-year driver, Oscar Piastri. Here's the uncomfortable truth for the rest of the grid. McLaren didn't build this car around Oscar, but it fits him anyway. And in Barcelona, that became obvious. Because while Lando Norris stole headlines with the second fastest lap of the week, it was Oscar who laid the groundwork. Oscar who stayed calm during the failure. Oscar who delivered when the car was still a question mark. And now that question has been answered. The MCL40 is fast. It's stable. And it's ready. So now, the spotlight turns. If McLaren gives both drivers an equal shot at Bahrain, if strategy doesn't get in the way, if development stays on course, then the fight for McLaren's next win isn't just against Red Bull, Ferrari, or Mercedes. It might be an internal one. Lando versus Oscar. Two elite drivers. One car. And no more excuses. Because the car is there. The pace is real. And the opportunity? It's right now. Oscar Piastri knows it. You can see it in the way he talks. Measured. Unshaken. This isn't about hype anymore. It's about execution. He's not here to learn. He's here to deliver. And if this version of Piastri shows up in Bahrain, in Jeddah, in Melbourne, then for the first time in years, McLaren might be standing on the top step of the podium again. And it might not be Lando holding the trophy.